Greetings, Professor and fellow castmates of Managerial Communications. My name is Larry Manders, and I will present to you my cultural project, From the Midwest to the Middle East, a Midwesterner's exploration of the culture of the United Arab Emirates, presented by myself, Dr. Larry Manders. The picture you see before you is that of Palm Island, a resort community outside of the city of Dubai, the capital of the United Arab Emirates. It's a man-made island completely made out of ocean sand. The first question you might ask is why? Why study a culture halfway around the globe? Upon completing my training in anesthesiology, I plan to practice medicine abroad for a few years. In Dubai, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, is my first stop. The people of this region are extremely interesting from historical standpoints. They have a strong sense of belief and understanding of oneself, and they actually have a strong historical influence in terms of the history of mankind together. The culture is a strong Middle Eastern culture with more recent Western influence. One of the Western influences you may see there is Palm Island, as I showed in the previous slide. As I said before, previously made all from dredged ocean sand. In terms of geography, the United Arab Emirates is located in the Middle East. To its south, Saudi Arabia. To its east, Oman. And to its north, the Persian Gulf, directly across from Iran. In terms of the country itself, it is formed of 9 original emirates. The capital city, marked by their white and red star, is Abu Dhabi, located in the center of the country. In terms of geography and climate, it is a desert climate with an average annual temperature of approximately 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and the max in its summer months can reach anywhere between 100 to 110s. Depending on the location within the country, the annual rainfall is between 5 and 11 inches. Compare that to our own Wayne, Nebraska, whose annual temperature is about 47 degrees Fahrenheit and 28 inches of precipitation per year. The culture there in the United Arab Emirates is definitely a stark contrast in terms of the environmental conditions that we find here in the United States. In terms of current population and racial makeup, the current population is 9.2 million, of which 1.4 million are Emirate citizens, or citizens that actually born and raised within the country. The other 7.8 million are expatriates. Expatriates are persons temporarily or permanently residing in a country other than one's personal upbringing. The majority of these expatriates actually hail from other countries in the region, in addition to Europe, Australia, and we in the United States. The majority of inhabitants of the country are Arab, with the largest majorities making only up 15% of the population, and those consisting of, in terms of racial makeup, Caucasian, Asian, and African. In terms of history, about 100 to 125,000 years ago, as I elaborated in the previous slide, primitive man established himself in the region. These are some of the first humans that actually are transported from or migrated from Africa. In terms of further, more recent history, about 2700 to 2000 BC, the most distant culture, the An-Nar culture, actually developed itself in the region about the same time as the ancient Egyptians. By 637 AD, Islam spread to the region, which actually primarily was a tribe region between that time until the 1500s, in which the Portuguese underwent bloody conquest of the region and controlled it for approximately 150 years. After the Portuguese reign in the late 17 to 1820s, the area was actually known as the Pirate Coast. It was a formation of multiple tribes that actually used pirating of both Portuguese, Spanish, and British ships for its primary source of income. In the 1820s, the British actually invaded the region and undertook control, and they formed trucal sheikdoms, which were basically individual governing bodies of local tribes in their region, and renamed the region from the Pirate Coast to the Trucal Coast. In 1892, the United Kingdom, in an attempt to more stabilize the region, actually underwent alliances and formed closer bonds through treaty with the Trucal Sheikdoms. In the 1800s to 1930s, the culture and economy was based primarily on the pearling industry. But at the entrance of the Great Depression, both in Europe and the United States, the industry in terms of pearling actually underwent its demise. In the 1930s and 1950s, oil was actually discovered in the region, and the oil industry began its early roots. This consisted all the way up into the 1970s, in which the UK actually dissolved treaties in the region and pulled out of the United Arab Emirates and actually formed 7 new sheikdoms, combining 2 of the earlier emirates. In 1994 to 95, the United Arab Emirates finally signed defense agreements with the United States and France as outside factors actually forming the region and helping stabilize the country. Up until this point, the United Arab Emirates actually had strong traditions in itself. And the people of this region, even though have been affected by Western influence in the last 200, 300 years, are extremely passionate about their desert nomadic and sea-bearing ancestors, and actually practice some of their cultural practices to this day. In terms of these historical practices, falconry, which was actually an early source of small game hunting, which falcons were actually used to harvest animals in the desert, is still practiced and actually celebrated in the country. In terms of agriculture, the traditional agricultural commodity is the date palm, which is actually what we consider dates here in the United States, grown on palm trees actually in oases in the desert along waterways. It's actually the main export in terms of fruit from the country. The country itself also has a strong tradition with camels and Arabian horses, which were actually used in its early nomadic days as their primarily modes of transport. To this day, they actually use these horses and camels in terms of tourist attractions and actually provide rides and festivals celebrating these animals. In terms of its sea traditions, pearling, as you see in the top left, is actually still practiced and done for sport within the nation. These boat rides consist of going out as far as a mile offshore and actually diving in the water upwards to 20 to 30 feet and actually obtaining the clams from the bottom of the ocean floor, upon which they actually brought back to the boat and then opened up and discovered for their bounty of pearls. The other predominant things inside the region in terms of sea traditions are actually fishing and boating. They have their own unique style of boat, similar to what we consider as like a longboat or canoe in the United States, in which people actually, 2 rows of individuals actually